I said I couldn't watch the baby that weekend. I had a doctor's appointment. But my daughter said, "You're not being supportive of our family." Then she changed the locks. Those words still echo in my mind. Even now, months later, as I sit in my quiet living room with a cup of tea and the morning light filtering through curtains that I chose, in a house that feels peaceful for the first time in years. My name is Margaret Lane, and at 68 years old, I learned the hardest lesson of my life, that sometimes the people who demand the most from your love are the ones least capable of returning it. What my daughter, Rachel, did to me that October weekend wasn't just cruel. It was the final act in a decades-long performance where I played the devoted mother and she played the entitled child who believed my life existed solely to serve hers. But what she didn't expect was that her 68-year-old mother still had enough fight left in her to take back control of her own story. It started with what should have been a simple conversation. Rachel called me on a Thursday evening, her voice already carrying that edge of frustration that had become so familiar over the years. "Mom, I need you to watch Olivia this weekend. Mark and I have that couples retreat we've been planning for months, and our babysitter just canceled." Olivia was my 3-year-old granddaughter, and under normal circumstances, I would have said yes immediately. I adored that little girl, and I had been her primary childcare backup since she was born. But this particular weekend was different. "Rachel, I'm sorry, but I can't this weekend. I have a follow-up appointment with Dr. Andrew on Saturday morning about those test results we've been waiting for." There was a pause that felt loaded with disapproval. "Mom, can't you reschedule that? This retreat is really important for Mark and me. Our couples counselor specifically recommended it." "Sweetheart, I've been waiting 3 weeks for this appointment. The doctor said the results needed to be discussed in person, and you know how hard it is to get rescheduled with specialists." "Mom, it's just a doctor's appointment. This is about our family's future." I felt that familiar knot forming in my stomach, the one that always appeared when Rachel began applying pressure to get what she wanted from me. "Rachel, I am supportive of your family. I've watched Olivia every weekend for the past 2 months while you and Mark worked on your marriage. I've helped with your mortgage payments when money was tight. I've been there for every crisis, every emergency, every time you've needed anything. But I cannot cancel a medical appointment that might be about cancer." "Cancer? Mom, you're being dramatic. You always assume the worst about everything medical. Remember when you thought that mole was melanoma and it turned out to be nothing?" Her dismissal of my health concerns was so casual, so thoughtless, that I actually felt breathless for a moment. "Rachel, whether it turns out to be something serious or not, I have an appointment that I need to keep." "Fine, whatever. I guess Mark and I will just have to cancel our retreat. I hope you're happy knowing that you've contributed to our marriage falling apart." She hung up before I could respond. I sat there holding the phone, staring at it, as if it might offer some explanation for how a conversation about a medical appointment had turned into an accusation that I was sabotaging my daughter's marriage. This wasn't the first time Rachel had used emotional manipulation to try to get what she wanted from me, but the cruelty of it still took my breath away. Friday passed without any contact from Rachel, which was not unusual when she was angry with me. She had a pattern of giving me the silent treatment until I apologized for whatever imaginary transgression she'd decided I'd committed. Usually, I would be the one to call first, to smooth things over, to make peace. But this time, I decided to wait. Saturday morning, I went to my appointment with Dr. Andrew. The news was good. The spot on my mammogram was just dense tissue, nothing to worry about. I felt a wave of relief that I wanted to share with someone, and my first instinct was to call Rachel. But when I took out my phone, I hesitated. She had made it clear that my health concerns were an inconvenience to her. Did I really want to share this moment of relief with someone who dismissed my fears so callously? I decided to wait until she called me. Sunday came and went with no word from Rachel. By Monday, I was starting to feel concerned. It wasn't like her to go this long without contact, especially when she was angry with me. Usually, her silent treatments lasted a day or two at most before she needed something and would call as if nothing had happened. Tuesday afternoon, I decided to drive over to Rachel's house. I had a key. She had given it to me years ago for emergencies and for the many times I came over to help with Olivia or household tasks. I thought maybe I would surprise them with dinner, try to smooth over whatever tension remained from our conversation about the weekend. But when I put my key in the lock, it wouldn't turn. I tried several times, thinking maybe the lock was sticking. Then I tried the back door key. Same problem. It took several minutes for the reality to sink in that Rachel had changed the locks. I stood on her front porch, holding keys that no longer worked, feeling a mix of confusion and growing dread. I rang the doorbell, but no one answered, though I could see Rachel's car in the driveway and could hear the TV inside. I called her cell phone. It went straight to voicemail. Finally, I sent her a text. "Rachel, I'm at your house. My keys don't work. Are you okay?" The response came 20 minutes later, after I'd driven home. "We've decided we need some space from you right now. Your constant demands and manipulation are affecting our family. Please respect our boundaries." I read that text 5 times before the words began to make sense. My constant demands? My manipulation? I was the one who gave constantly and asked for nothing. I was the one who'd been manipulated into believing that my worth as a mother and grandmother was measured entirely by my availability and willingness to sacrifice my own needs for theirs.
But apparently, the one time I said no, the one time I prioritized my health over their convenience, I had become demanding and manipulative. I called Rachel immediately. The call went straight to voicemail, but I left a message anyway. "Rachel, I don't understand what's happening here. I haven't made any demands on you. I simply couldn't babysit one weekend because of a medical appointment. If you need space, that's fine. But please, don't shut me out of Olivia's life over this. Call me back so we can talk." She didn't call back. Over the next week, I sent several texts asking if we could talk, if I could see Olivia, if I had done something else to upset her that I wasn't aware of. All of my messages went unanswered. It was as if I had ceased to exist. The silence gave me time to think, and what I thought about wasn't pleasant. I began to review my relationship with Rachel over the past several years, looking for patterns I had been too close to see before. What I saw was a relationship that had become entirely one-sided. Rachel called when she needed something: babysitting, money, help with household projects, emotional support during her various crises. But when had she last called just to see how I was doing? When had she last offered to help me with anything? When had she last shown any genuine interest in my life, my health, my happiness? I couldn't remember. I also began to think about the way she spoke to me during our interactions. There was always an undercurrent of impatience, as if my presence was something she tolerated rather than enjoyed. She frequently interrupted me when I was speaking, dismissed my opinions on everything from politics to parenting, and made it clear that she considered my life experiences irrelevant to the modern world. When I offered advice based on my own experience raising her, she would roll her eyes and say, "Things are different now, Mom." When I expressed concern about her marriage or her stress levels, she would snap,
You don't understand the pressures we're under. When I suggested activities we could do together as a family, she would explain why none of my ideas would work with their schedule. I had been making excuses for this behavior for years, telling myself that she was just stressed, that young parents are overwhelmed, that she didn't mean to be dismissive. But now, sitting in my quiet house with my phone silent for the first time in years, I began to see the truth. Rachel had been training me to accept less and less respect while giving more and more of myself. And I had been a willing student. The breaking point had come not because I was demanding or manipulative, but because I had finally, after decades of perfect compliance, said no to something. And rather than respect my boundaries or try to understand my perspective, Rachel had decided to punish me by cutting me off entirely. 2 weeks after Rachel changed the locks, I made a decision that would have seemed impossible just a month earlier. I was going to stop trying to fix this relationship. Instead, I was going to fix my life. My first call was to my lawyer, Stephen Morrison, whom I'd known for 15 years. Stephen, I need to make some changes to my estate planning documents. Of course, Margaret. What kind of changes are we talking about? I want to revoke the power of attorney I gave to Rachel. I want to change the beneficiaries on my life insurance policies and retirement accounts. And I want to rewrite my will. There was a pause. Margaret, those are significant changes. Can I ask what's prompted this? I told Stephen about the recent events with Rachel, but also about the larger pattern of behavior I had been reflecting on. He listened without interrupting. Margaret, I've known you for a long time, and you're one of the most thoughtful people I know. If you're making these changes, I'm sure you have good reasons, but I want to make sure you've thought this through completely. Are you certain this is what you want to do? I'm certain. Stephen, I've spent the last 2 weeks thinking about nothing else. My daughter has made it clear that she values what I can do for her more than who I am as a person. I'm not going to continue enabling that dynamic. All right. Who would you like to designate as your new power of attorney and primary beneficiary? I had already thought about this. My niece, Anna. She's my late sister's daughter, lives in Oregon. She's always been thoughtful and respectful in our relationship, and I trust her judgment. I'll drop the paperwork. But Margaret, I want you to think about this for at least a week before you sign anything. Make sure this is really what you want to do, not just a decision you're making while you're hurt and angry. I appreciate that advice, Stephen, but I'm not making this decision because I'm angry. I'm making it because I'm finally seeing clearly. My second call was to my bank. Over the years, I had set up automatic transfers to help Rachel with various expenses. Her mortgage, Olivia's daycare, contributions to college savings accounts. Every month, $1,200 left my checking account and went to support Rachel's family. I need to cancel all automatic transfers to Rachel Morrison's accounts. Are you sure, Mrs. Lane? These transfers have been in place for several years. I'm sure. Cancel them, effective immediately. My third call was to Anna in Oregon. Anna was 2 years younger than Rachel, but the difference in their characters was striking. Where Rachel was demanding and entitled, Anna was gracious and independent. Where Rachel took my help for granted, Anna always expressed genuine gratitude for any support I offered. Aunt Margaret, what a lovely surprise. How are you? I'm going through some changes, sweetheart, and I wanted to talk to you about something important. I explained the situation with Rachel and the legal changes I was making. Anna listened thoughtfully. Aunt Margaret, I'm so sorry you're going through this. I can't imagine how painful it must be to have your own daughter treat you that way. It has been painful.
but it's also been clarifying. Anna, I want you to know that I'm making these changes because I value the relationship we have and the person you are, not because I'm trying to punish Rachel. I understand. And Aunt Margaret, I want you to know that you're always welcome here in Oregon. I have plenty of space, and I think you might enjoy the coast. No pressure, just an open invitation. Thank you, dear. That means more to me than you know. 3 weeks after Rachel changed the locks, she finally broke her silence. But it wasn't with a phone call or a visit. It was with a text message. Mom, we need to talk about the financial support you've been providing. The automatic transfer stopped and we're depending on that money. Not, how are you? Not, I'm sorry we haven't been in touch. Not, I miss you. Just a demand to restore the money.
I stared at that text for a long time before responding. Rachel, you told me you needed space from my constant demands and manipulation. Struggling? I'm no longer comfortable providing financial support to someone who has cut me out of their life. Mom, you're being ridiculous. The money has nothing to do with our personal issues. That response told me everything I needed to know about how Rachel viewed our relationship. In her mind, I was supposed to continue functioning as her personal bank account, regardless of how she treated me as a person. Rachel, everything is connected. You can't treat someone badly and then expect them to continue supporting you financially. Fine, be that way. But don't blame me when our family falls apart because you decided to be petty. I didn't respond to that text. I also didn't respond to the increasingly frantic messages that followed over the next few days, or to the phone call from Mark, Rachel's husband, who tried to pressure me into being reasonable about the money. Margaret, I don't know what's going on between you and Rachel, but Olivia is the one who's going to suffer if you stop helping us, Mark said during a call that I almost didn't answer. Mark, Olivia is Rachel's responsibility, not mine. If you and Rachel are having financial difficulties, you need to address those between yourselves. But you've always helped us before. And I was happy to help when I felt valued and respected as a family member. That's no longer the case. Margaret, you're being unreasonable. Rachel's under a lot of stress. Mark, I'm going to stop you right there. Being under stress doesn't give someone the right to treat their mother badly, and it certainly doesn't entitle them to financial support from someone they've decided to shut out of their life. What do you want from us? I want to be treated with basic respect and kindness. I want to have a relationship with my granddaughter that isn't contingent on my usefulness as a babysitter and bank account. I want to be valued as a person, not just as a resource. But the money? The money was a gift I gave because I loved my family and wanted to help. When you treat someone badly, you lose the privilege of their generosity. Mark hung up without saying goodbye. 2 months after Rachel changed the locks, I received a different kind of message. This one was from my granddaughter Olivia, though it was clearly dictated to Rachel. Dear Grandma, I miss you very much. Mommy says you're mad at us, and that's why you don't come see me anymore. I hope you're not mad at me. I love you. Love, Olivia. Reading that message broke my heart, not because I was sad, but because I was furious that Rachel was using her 3-year-old daughter as a weapon in our conflict. Telling Olivia that I was mad at them was not only untrue, but cruel. It was designed to make me feel guilty and make Olivia feel responsible for adult problems she couldn't understand. I called Rachel immediately. How dare you use Olivia to try to manipulate me? I said when she answered. I don't know what you're talking about. You know exactly what I'm talking about. That text message from Olivia about me being mad at them?
She's 3 years old, Rachel. She doesn't understand adult conflicts, and you have no right to make her feel responsible for your choices. I just told her the truth, that you're upset with our family. The truth is that you cut me out of your life because I couldn't babysit one weekend due to a medical appointment. The truth is that you changed your locks without explanation and refused to speak to me for weeks. The truth is that you only contacted me when you realized your money had stopped coming. Olivia doesn't need to know any of that, but she also doesn't need to be told that her grandmother is mad at her. So what am I supposed to tell her when she asks why you never come over anymore? You tell her that sometimes adults have disagreements that have nothing to do with children, and that Grandma still loves her very much. But you don't come over. I can't come over, Rachel. You changed the locks, remember? There was a long pause. I could give you new keys? Under what conditions? What do you mean? I mean, what would be different if I came back into your life? Would you treat me with respect? Would you value my time and opinions? Would you stop expecting me to drop everything whenever you need something? Would you stop taking my financial help for granted? Mom, I don't want to negotiate the terms of our relationship. Then we don't have a relationship, Rachel. I'm too old to go back to being taken for granted and treated badly. You're really going to choose your pride over your granddaughter? I'm choosing my self-respect over being used and mistreated. And I'm not the one who involved Olivia in this situation. I hung up feeling both heartbroken and relieved. Heartbroken because I did miss Olivia terribly, but relieved that I had finally stated my boundaries clearly and stood by them. Spring arrived, and with it a sense of renewal I hadn't experienced in years. Without the constant drama and demands from Rachel, my days became peaceful and purposeful. I started going to the library again, something I had given up because I was always too busy helping Rachel with something. I began taking morning walks around my neighborhood, noticing flowers and birds and changes in the weather that I had been too stressed to appreciate before. I also started saying yes to social invitations I had been declining for years because they conflicted with Rachel's needs. My neighbor Helen invited me to join her book club, and I discovered how much I enjoyed discussing literature with people who actually listened to my opinions. My friend Dorothy asked me to join her for watercolor classes at the community center, and I found that I had a talent for painting that I had never explored. Most surprisingly, I found that I enjoyed my own company. For the first time in decades, I could plan my days around my own interests and priorities. I could eat dinner when I was hungry, not when it was convenient for babysitting. I could make plans for weekends without first checking whether Rachel needed help with something. Anna called me regularly during this time, checking on how I was doing and updating me on her life in Oregon. Her genuine concern and interest in my well-being was such a contrast to the way Rachel had treated me that it brought me to tears sometimes.
"Aunt Margaret, you sound so much happier lately," she said during one of our conversations. "I think I am happier. It's strange. I thought I would be devastated by losing contact with Rachel and Olivia, and I do miss Olivia terribly. But I don't miss the constant stress of trying to meet Rachel's expectations and never quite succeeding. You deserve to be treated better than that." I'm finally starting to believe that. In June, Anna invited me to visit her in Oregon for a long weekend. The timing felt right. I needed a change of scenery, and I was curious about the life she had built for herself on the coast. Anna's house was a small cottage about 2 blocks from the ocean, surrounded by a garden that she had clearly put a lot of love into maintaining. When she met me at the airport, her hug felt genuine and warm in a way that Rachel's perfunctory embraces never had. "Welcome to my little piece of paradise," she said as we drove through the coastal town where she lived. The weekend was everything I needed it to be. Anna and I took long walks on the beach, visited local art galleries, and had leisurely dinners where we talked about books and travel and philosophy, conversations that I realized I hadn't had in years. Anna never once checked her phone during our meals or seemed impatient with the pace of our activities. She made me feel like my company was something she valued, not something she endured. Anna, I want to ask you something, I said on our last evening together as we sat on her deck watching the sunset. When you were growing up, did you ever notice anything about the way Rachel treated people versus the way you treated people? Anna was quiet for a moment, considering her answer carefully. Aunt Margaret, I don't want to speak badly of Rachel, but yes, I did notice differences in how we approached relationships. What kind of differences? Rachel always seemed to expect things from people. She expected help, attention, accommodation, and when she didn't get what she expected, she would get angry or hurt. I learned early that expecting less from people meant being disappointed less often, and that giving without expecting anything in return made relationships feel lighter and more genuine. Did you think I spoiled her? I think you loved her very much and wanted to protect her from disappointment. But maybe protecting someone from all consequences isn't actually protecting them. Anna's gentle wisdom stayed with me long after I returned home. She was right. I had protected Rachel from consequences her entire life, and in doing so, I had enabled her to become someone who expected the world to revolve around her needs. In July, I received an unexpected text from a number I didn't recognize. "Grandma, this is Olivia. Mommy helped me get a phone for my birthday. I miss you. Can you come see me?" My heart jumped at seeing Olivia's name, but I was also concerned. Olivia had just turned 4. Why did she need a phone? And why was Rachel facilitating contact now after months of silence? I called the number. Olivia answered, her little voice excited and happy. "Grandma, Mommy said I could call you. Hi, sweetheart. I miss you too. How are you?" "I'm good. I have a new bike and I learned to swim and I lost a tooth." "That's wonderful, Olivia. You've been learning so many new things." "Grandma, why don't you come see me anymore? Did I do something bad?" My heart broke hearing the confusion in her voice. "Oh, sweetheart, you didn't do anything bad at all. Sometimes grown-ups have disagreements that have nothing to do with children. I love you very much, and that will never change. But I want you to come to my birthday party. Olivia, let me talk to Mommy for a minute, okay?" Rachel got on the phone, her voice carefully neutral. "Hi, Mom." "Rachel, why are you having Olivia call me now? She's been asking about you constantly. I thought maybe we could work something out." "What kind of something?" "Maybe you could come to her birthday party this weekend, just for a few hours." I felt the familiar tug of wanting to see Olivia, but I also felt wary. "Rachel, what's changed? A month ago, you were telling me I was manipulative and demanding. Mom, can't we just move past all that? Olivia needs her grandmother." "Olivia has always needed her grandmother. That didn't stop you from cutting me out of her life for 4 months." I was angry. People say things when they're angry that they don't mean. "Do you mean that, Rachel? Do you regret the way you handled this situation?" There was a pause. "I regret that it's gone on this long." That wasn't the same as an apology, and we both knew it. Rachel regretted the duration of our estrangement, but not the actions that had caused it. "Rachel, if I come to Olivia's party, what happens afterward? Do we go back to the same dynamic we had before, where you expect me to be available whenever you need something, but you don't treat me with basic respect?" "Mom, I don't want to negotiate our relationship." "Then we're at an impasse, because I won't go back to being taken for granted." "So you're really going to miss Olivia's birthday because of your pride?" "I'm going to miss Olivia's birthday because her mother is more interested in having access to free babysitting and financial support than in treating me like a valued family member." "That's not true." "Isn't it? Rachel, In this entire conversation, you haven't once asked how I'm doing, whether my health scare turned out okay, or if I need anything. You've only talked about what Olivia needs from me. Fine. How are you doing, Mom? The question was asked with such obvious reluctance that it almost made me laugh. I'm doing very well, actually. Better than I've been in years. Good. So, will you come to the party? I almost said yes. The pull to see Olivia was so strong that I nearly agreed, despite knowing that nothing had really changed. But then I thought about Anna's words about protecting someone from consequences, and I realized that I would be teaching Olivia that it was acceptable to treat people badly as long as you apologized when you needed something from them. No, Rachel, I won't be coming to the party. Mom! Tell Olivia that I love her very much and that I hope she has a wonderful birthday. When you're ready to have a real conversation about how we treat each other, call me. Until then, I think it's best if we continue to have space.
In August, I made a decision that surprised even me. I decided to move to Oregon to be closer to Anna. Not because I was running away from my problems with Rachel, but because I had discovered that I could build a new life based on relationships that brought me joy rather than stress. Anna was thrilled when I called to tell her about my decision. Aunt Margaret, I'm so excited. I've already been looking at houses for sale near me. There's a lovely little place just 3 blocks from the beach that I think you'd love. Anna, I want to make sure you understand that I'm not moving there to become dependent on you. I want to be near you because I enjoy your company, not because I need you to take care of me. I know that. And I enjoy your company too. I think we could have a wonderful time exploring the area together. As I began the process of selling my house and planning my move, I felt a lightness I hadn't experienced in years. I was making a choice based purely on what would make me happy, not on what other people expected from me. The one shadow on my excitement was the knowledge that moving to Oregon would make it much more difficult to have a relationship with Olivia, even if Rachel and I eventually reconciled. But I had to accept that my relationship with my granddaughter was being held hostage by someone who had shown no interest in treating me with respect. 2 weeks before my scheduled move, I received a phone call that I had been both expecting and dreading. It was Rachel, and her voice was panicked. Mom, you can't move to Oregon. What about Olivia? What about our family? Rachel, you made it clear that I wasn't welcome in your family when you changed the locks and cut off contact with me. That was months ago. People change. I've changed. How have you changed? I realize now that I overreacted about the babysitting thing. I was stressed about my marriage, and I took it out on you. And what about all the other issues in our relationship? The way you dismissed my health concerns, the way you only called when you needed something, the way you took my financial help for granted. Mom, I don't know what you want me to say. I want you to acknowledge that you've been treating me badly for years, not just during one conversation about babysitting. I want you to understand that I'm a person with my own needs and feelings, not just a resource for you to use when convenient. Okay, fine. I acknowledge that I haven't always been the perfect daughter. The grudging nature of her admission told me everything I needed to know. Rachel was willing to say whatever she thought I wanted to hear in order to get me to stay and continue supporting her, but she didn't actually understand or regret her behavior. Rachel, I'm moving to Oregon. I found a wonderful community there, and I'm excited about this new chapter in my life. But what about Olivia? Olivia will always be welcome to visit me in Oregon, but I'm not going to base my life decisions on the possibility that you might decide to let me back into hers. Mom, please, don't do this. I'm not doing anything to you, Rachel. I'm doing something for me. There's a difference. I moved to Oregon in September, and it was everything I hoped it would be. My new house was a small craftsman cottage with a view of the ocean from the front porch. Anna helped me settle in, introducing me to her friends and showing me around the community. Within a month, I felt more at home than I had felt anywhere in years. I joined a writing group at the local library, started volunteering at an animal shelter, and took up photography as a hobby. I made friends with my neighbors who invited me to potluck dinners and game nights. For the first time in my adult life, I had a social circle that existed independently of my role as a mother and grandmother. Most importantly, I learned to enjoy solitude without feeling lonely. I could spend entire days reading or gardening or walking on the beach without feeling like I needed to be useful to someone else in order to justify my existence. 3 months after my move, I received an unexpected letter in the mail. It was from Olivia, though the handwriting was clearly Rachel's. Dear Grandma, I miss you very much. Mommy says you moved very far away because you wanted a new adventure. I hope you are happy. I am learning to read, and I wanted to write you a letter by myself, but Mommy helped me with the spelling. I love you. Your granddaughter, Olivia. Unlike the manipulative text message Rachel had sent months earlier, this letter felt genuine. It was sad without being guilt-inducing, and it focused on Olivia's feelings rather than trying to make me feel responsible for the situation. I wrote back immediately. Dear Olivia, thank you for your beautiful letter. I am very proud of you for learning to read and write. I do miss you very much, and I love you more than all the stars in the sky. I moved to Oregon because I wanted to try living somewhere new, near the ocean. There are seals and sea lions here, and I think you'd love to see them. I hope someday you can come visit me. Love always, Grandma. A week later, my phone rang. It was Olivia calling from Rachel's phone. Grandma, I got your letter. Mommy read it to me 3 times. I'm so glad you liked it, sweetheart. How are you doing? I'm good. I miss you, though. Can I come see your new house? I would love that, Olivia. You would have to ask Mommy if it's okay, and it would have to be when she could come with you. Mommy, can we go see Grandma? I heard Olivia ask. There was a muffled conversation, then Rachel came on the phone. Mom, Olivia really wants to see you. Maybe we could plan a visit for the holidays. Rachel, Olivia is always welcome here. But I want to be clear about something. If you bring her for a visit, it needs to be because you genuinely want to repair our relationship, not because you're hoping to convince me to move back or start sending money again. I do want to repair our relationship. What does that look like to you? I want us to be a family again.
We can be family, Rachel, but it has to be a different kind of family than we were before. It has to be based on mutual respect and genuine affection, not on me constantly giving and you constantly taking. I understand. I hope you do. Because Olivia deserves to have both her mother and her grandmother in her life, but only if we can model healthy relationships for her. Rachel and Olivia visited for a long weekend in December. It was the first time I had seen Olivia in 8 months, and she had grown so much that I almost didn't recognize her. She was still my sweet, bright granddaughter, but she was more independent and articulate than I remembered. The visit went better than I had expected. Rachel seemed genuinely remorseful about the way she had handled our estrangement, and she made an effort to be respectful and considerate during their stay. We had some difficult conversations about our relationship and what needed to change going forward, but they were productive rather than hostile. Most importantly, Olivia and I were able to reconnect without the tension and drama that had surrounded our relationship when I lived nearby and was constantly being pulled into Rachel's various crises. We walked on the beach, built sandcastles, and read stories together. Olivia met Anna and immediately adored her, calling her Aunt Anna and insisting that she join us for all our activities. On their last day, as we were saying goodbye at the airport, Olivia hugged me tightly and whispered, "I'm glad you're happy, Grandma." "Thank you, sweetheart. That means everything to me. Will you come visit us sometime?" "Maybe. We'll see." After they left, I reflected on the visit with mixed feelings. I was grateful to have reconnected with Olivia, and I was cautiously optimistic about the possibility of building a healthier relationship with Rachel. But I was also aware that one good visit didn't erase years of problematic patterns, and I was determined not to get drawn back into the same dynamics that had made me so unhappy before. Over the following months, Rachel and I spoke regularly by phone, and our conversations gradually became more natural and less guarded. She seemed to be making a genuine effort to be more considerate of my time and feelings, and she even asked for my advice occasionally without dismissing my responses. But I also maintained clear boundaries. When she asked if I could help with Olivia's summer camp expenses, I said no. When she suggested that I move back to be closer to Olivia, I explained that I was happy in Oregon and planned to stay. When she complained about her financial struggles, I listened sympathetically, but didn't offer to help. It took almost a year, but eventually Rachel stopped testing my boundaries and seemed to accept that our relationship had permanently changed. She began calling me just to chat, not because she needed something. She started asking about my life in Oregon, my new friends, my activities. Most importantly, she began treating me like a person she genuinely cared about, not just a resource she could tap when convenient. The real test came the following spring when Rachel called me in tears. "Mom, Mark and I are getting divorced. It's final this time. I don't know how I'm going to manage everything on my own." My first instinct was to offer to help financially, to drop everything and fly back to support her through the crisis. But I caught myself and instead asked, "What kind of support do you need, Rachel?" "I don't know. Everything feels overwhelming. The legal fees, finding a new place to live, figuring out custody arrangements. I feel like I'm drowning." "That sounds incredibly stressful. Have you looked into legal aid services? Many communities have resources for people going through divorce who can't afford full legal representation." "I hadn't thought of that. Do you think they could really help?" "It's worth investigating. You might also want to connect with a divorce support group. Going through this alone can be isolating, but talking to other people who understand what you're experiencing might help." We talked for an hour about practical resources and coping strategies. I offered emotional support and listened to her fears without trying to fix everything for her. When we hung up, I realized that I had been more helpful to Rachel by not immediately offering money and solutions than I had ever been when I tried to rescue her from every difficulty. Over the following months, Rachel navigated her divorce with more strength and independence than I had ever seen from her. She found legal aid, connected with other single mothers, and gradually built a support system that didn't revolve around me. She still called me regularly, but to share her victories and frustrations, not to ask me to solve her problems. The most surprising thing was our conversations became enjoyable. Without the constant undercurrent of need and resentment, we began to rediscover things we actually liked about each other. Rachel was funny and intelligent when she wasn't focused on what she could get from me. I was more relaxed and patient when I wasn't constantly feeling used. Emma visited me 2 more times that year, once with Rachel and once on her own for a week-long summer vacation. Those visits convinced me that I had made the right choice in moving to Oregon and establishing boundaries with Rachel. Emma and I were able to build a relationship based on genuine affection rather than obligation, and she seemed to thrive in the peaceful, drama-free environment of my coastal cottage.
During her summer visit, Emma made friends with the neighbor children and spent hours collecting shells and exploring tide pools. In the evenings, we would sit on the porch and she would tell me about school, her friends, and her dreams for the future. She wanted to be a marine biologist, she told me, because she loved learning about ocean creatures. "Grandma, I'm glad you moved here," she said one evening as we watched the sunset. "It's like you found the place where you belong." "I think I did, sweetheart." Sometimes we have to be brave enough to try something new to find out where we're happiest. Were you scared when you moved? A little, but I was more excited than scared. And Anna was here to help me feel welcome. I like Anna. She's nice to you. She is. It's important to have people in your life who are kind to you. That conversation reminded me of one of the most valuable lessons I had learned through this entire experience. That we teach people how to treat us by what we accept. For years, I had accepted disrespect, taken advantage of my generosity and emotional manipulation from Rachel because I was afraid that setting boundaries would mean losing her entirely. But by finally insisting on being treated well, I had actually saved our relationship. The Rachel that called me now was someone I genuinely enjoyed talking to, someone who seemed to value me as a person, not just as a resource she could tap when convenient. 2 years after moving to Oregon, I received news that both saddened and vindicated me. Rachel's ex-husband, Mark, had remarried, and his new wife was complaining about the amount of time he spent with Emma and the child support he paid to Rachel. Rachel called me to vent about the situation, and I could hear the stress in her voice. The new wife is trying to convince Mark that he's paying too much in child support and that Emma should live with them more of the time so they don't have to pay as much to me. But Mom, Emma doesn't even like going there anymore. The new wife treats her like an inconvenience, and Mark just goes along with whatever she wants.
How is Emma handling all of this? She's confused and hurt. She can't understand why her dad's new wife doesn't like her, and she doesn't want to spend time there anymore. That must be heartbreaking for both of you. It is. And you know what's ironic? I finally understand what you went through with me. I finally see what it's like when someone treats your child badly and you feel powerless to protect them. The recognition in her voice was painful, but also healing. Rachel had finally experienced what it felt like to watch someone you love being mistreated by family members, and it had given her insight into my own experience. Rachel, I'm sorry you and Emma are going through this. It's one of the hardest things about being a parent, watching your child be hurt by people who should love them. Mom, I owe you an apology, a real one. I've been thinking a lot about how I treated you over the years, and I'm ashamed of it. You didn't deserve to be dismissed and taken for granted. You didn't deserve to have your health concerns brushed aside. And you certainly didn't deserve to be cut off from Emma because you couldn't babysit one weekend. I felt tears starting to form. Thank you for saying that, Rachel. It means more to me than you know. I want you to know that I understand now why you had to set boundaries with me. I was treating you the way Mark's new wife treats Emma, like an inconvenience to be managed rather than a person to be loved. Rachel, we all make mistakes in relationships. What matters is that we learn from them and do better going forward. I want to do better, not just for Emma's sake, but because I love you and I want us to have a real relationship. We do have a real relationship now. It just took us a while to figure out what that looked like. As I hung up the phone, I reflected on how much our family had changed over the past 3 years. The crisis that had started with a simple refusal to babysit had ultimately led to all of us becoming healthier, more independent people. Rachel had learned to solve her own problems and build a support system that didn't depend entirely on me. Emma had learned that love doesn't mean having to manage other people's emotions or needs. And I had learned that setting boundaries wasn't selfish. It was necessary for building relationships based on mutual respect rather than obligation. Most importantly, I had learned that it's never too late to choose yourself. At 68, I had completely rebuilt my life around my own interests and values rather than other people's expectations. I had discovered talents and friendships and sources of joy that I never would have found if I had continued to define myself entirely through my role as a giver and helper. The woman who had sat in her living room 3 years ago, devastated by her daughter's cruelty and feeling worthless after being discarded, was gone. In her place was someone who knew her own value, who had learned to say no without guilt, and who had built a life that brought her genuine happiness. That transformation hadn't come from revenge in the traditional sense. I hadn't set out to punish Rachel or to make her suffer. I had simply decided to stop accepting unacceptable treatment and to prioritize my own well-being for the first time in decades. But the consequences of my choice had been more powerful than any deliberate revenge could have been. By removing myself from the dysfunctional dynamic she had created, I had forced her to confront the reality of what she had lost. By stopping my financial support, I had made her face the consequences of taking my generosity for granted. By moving across the country, I had shown her that I was capable of building a fulfilling life without her. Most importantly, by refusing to be drawn back into the same patterns when she tried to reconcile, I had insisted that any future relationship between us would have to be based on genuine mutual respect rather than my endless accommodation of her needs. Now, as I sit in my cottage by the sea, writing this story on a crisp October morning with the sound of waves in the background, I think about other women who might be in situations similar to the one I escaped. Women who give and give and give to family members who take their love for granted. Women who accept disrespect because they're afraid that setting boundaries will mean losing relationships entirely. Women who believe that their worth is measured by their usefulness to others rather than their inherent value as human beings. I want those women to know what I learned, that choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary, that setting boundaries isn't cruel, it's healthy, that demanding respect from people who claim to love you isn't unreasonable, it's the foundation of any relationship worth having. I want them to know that it's possible to start over at any age, in any circumstances, that you don't have to accept bad treatment just because it comes from family, that there are people in the world who will value you for who you are, not just for what you can do for them. And I want them to know that sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone you love is to stop enabling their worst impulses. By refusing to continue being Rachel's emotional and financial safety net, I forced her to develop strength and independence she didn't know she had. By insisting on respect, I taught her how to be in relationship with someone as an equal rather than as a dependent. Rachel became that person eventually. Emma was always that person, and I became the kind of person who knew she deserved to be treated well and was brave enough to insist on it. The revenge wasn't in the pain I caused them by leaving. The revenge was in the life I built for myself, a life so full of peace and joy and genuine connection that it made their previous treatment of me seem not just cruel, but foolish. They had thrown away someone who loved them unconditionally. I had discovered that I was worth much more than they had ever understood. And that knowledge had set me free.